Here we go, headed into the weekend. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about rounds of showers and thunderstorms sweeping into the area. I'll break down the chances coming up for you.
As a Southern Kentucky family prepares to say goodbye to a 3-year-old girl, her mother answers to a murder charge. That's coming up. And police have made a third arrest in the murder of a Kentucky National Guardsman.
This is WKYT News at 4.
Welcome to WKYT News at 4. We have another nice looking day taking shape across the bluegrass. Take a look. Here is a live picture now of downtown Lexington. And as of now, things are looking to turn a little stormy in the coming days for us. We want to check in now with meteorologist Jim Caldwell. But today, great day out there, Jim.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. But the problem is we're going to see a little more heat try to build in as we get into your Friday before those storms come pushing in. And you saw the view there downtown. You can see a very similar one here at the station as well. A lot of sunshine mixing in with those clouds. It's currently 87 degrees with a feels like temperature of 88 right now. So still dealing with some of that warmth, catching a northeasterly wind though. And that temperature is very similar to what we're seeing around the area. 86 Frankfort, 86 Mount Sterling, Danville, 86, a little warmer into Somerset and London there where you find an actual 88 degree reading. We've been watching a few showers and some thunderstorms out to our west closer to Owensboro. You can see some of the clouds that are streaming into the skies of central Kentucky now, but nothing likely from that. Most of that moisture drying up and really falling apart here over the last little bit. Our focus of the forecast, we're talking about widespread weekend rain. We've got a slow moving front that is going to be drifting into the area and enhancing our chances of showers and storms. Here's the catch though. It's not going to be a complete and total washout because we're going to get it at different times during the day. It's going to come in waves, and I will track those waves coming up in just a few minutes, Amber.
Jim, we will see you then. Thank you. A Southern Kentucky mother accused in a deadly crash answered to the charges this morning. Jessica Warner is charged in the murder of her 3-year-old daughter, Chloe. Police say Warner caused a crash Saturday night in Russell County, and the child died from injury Sunday. WKYT's Phil Pendleton was in the Jamestown courtroom as Warner was arraigned and as a family prepared for the child's funeral this afternoon. It's our top story at 4.
Jessica Warner remains in on a $1 million bond, and as the family of this 3-year-old little girl prepares for funeral services, Jessica Warner was arraigned on a murder charge this morning in Russell District Court.
Jessica Warner.
The 26-year-old mother was in jail, appearing before a judge through video arraignment on the same day the funeral services for her 3-year-old daughter were held. Chloe Fortenberry died Sunday after police say she was injured when her mother went through an intersection and collided with a truck Saturday night. Court records say that she was under the influence of methamphetamines. The judge entered a plea of not guilty during the arraignment, and as he was reading the arrest record, Warner suddenly walked away and retreated to the back of the room where she appeared to have some kind of an emotional reaction. She was appointed a public defender also during the arraignment. The next court date for Jessica Warner is on September 26th. That's when a preliminary hearing will take place. There could be testimony then, and a judge will decide whether this case goes to a grand jury. In Russell County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
A fund to help the family with funeral expenses has been set up at First National Bank in Russell Springs. A third person has been charged in connection with the murder of a Kentucky National Guardsman. Investigators with the Lexington Police Department charged 23-year-old Justin Sloan with tampering with physical evidence and abuse of a corpse this afternoon. They've already charged Jeremy Harris with murder. He and Christy Hanley are also charged with abuse of a corpse and tampering with evidence. The victim, 24-year-old Trevor Dilger, was found inside a burning car on September 4th. Police say Harris shot and killed Dilger, then drove his car to a rural area near the Woodford County line and set it on fire with his body inside. We'll have an update on this case ahead for you on WKYT News at 4:30. The University of Kentucky says it is working closely with Lexington police to identify a man suspected in several sexual assaults near campus. Take a look. This is a police sketch of the assault suspect. suspect. Police think he might be behind several unsolved cases over the last several years. Police say they're also looking for 2 other men who helped stop an attempted sexual assault last month near Arlington and Grosvenor Avenues. They think those men could help with the investigation. The university says it's looking into adding additional measures to enhance security at the edge of campus. We'll have reaction from concerned students and parents ahead on WKYT News at 5. We're working on a number of other stories for you on WKYT starting at 4:30. Our Sam Dick joins us now from the newsroom to look at some of the news in progress. Good afternoon, Sam.
Good afternoon, Amber. Early cases of the flu are popping up around central Kentucky. According to the Kentucky Department for Public Health, they've received reports of the virus in Fayette, Jefferson, and Bullitt counties. So far, 10 cases have been reported. They say this might mean that the flu season in Kentucky is actually starting early. The flu season typically begins in October to November. Coming up on WKYT News at 5, you'll hear from a Lexington doctor what he has to say about those cases. The newest YMCA in Lexington is just about a month away from opening. The $20 million project is being named the Whitaker Family YMCA at Hamburg Place. It's in honor of the family of Elmer Whitaker, the CEO of Whitaker Bank. The 62,000 square foot building in Hamburg features a 10,000 square foot wellness center. There's also a youth development wing, exercise studios, a full-size gym, state-of-the-art locker rooms, and the most impressive aspect to the new Y, perhaps a 2-story water slide, indoor pool, and outdoor splash pad. We'll have more on the new facility ahead on WKYT News at 5 o'clock. And if you need a good excuse to eat out tonight, here it is. AIDS volunteers of Lexington holding their annual Dining Out for Life to help in the fight against HIV and AIDS. AVOL provides housing to hundreds of Kentuckians living with HIV and AIDS. Today only, you can help AVOL raise money by dining out at certain Lexington restaurants. Each of them will donate a percentage of today's sales to AVOL. You can find a list of the participating restaurants on WKYT.com. That's a look at some of the news in progress. Amber, back to you.
Sam, thank you. Now to some stories making headlines across the nation at 4. With a new poll showing a dead heat between them, the presidential candidates set out Thursday with clear messages in mind. Hillary Clinton's message, I'm back. Donald Trump's message, trust me on the economy. Karen Kafa reports from Washington.
Back at it.
Welcome back to Stronger Together.
After a timeout to recover from pneumonia at her home in Chappaqua, New York, Hillary Clinton took off for the trail again, first for a rally in North Carolina. Her campaign said she's ready to go.
She was obviously under the weather when she tried to plow through the last weekend. She didn't want to miss the 9/11 event, but I think she's strong and feisty and ready to go.
A near-fainting episode Sunday prompted questions about Clinton's health. Her campaign released more information from her doctor Wednesday showing her in good health. Donald Trump's campaign on Thursday followed up on an appearance with TV's Dr. Oz by releasing a letter from Trump's doctor, who recently examined him, saying he was in excellent health. Trump delivered an economic speech in New York, reiterating some previously discussed plans, including his ideas for tax reform and economic growth.
Over the next 10 years, our economic team estimates that under our plan, the economy will average 3.5% growth and create a total of 25 million new jobs.
Trump said the country could even reach 4% growth, but some analysts are skeptical. The U.S. economy hasn't seen that level since the technology boom during Bill Clinton's administration in the 90s. Both candidates seeking an issue that will help them break away in the polls. A new CBS News New York Times poll finds Clinton with a 2-point edge among likely voters nationwide, head-to-head with Trump. They are tied when third-party candidates are included. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Ford is moving production, some of its production, out of the U.S., where they're headed coming up in Money Watch.
Up with the latest news on WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
Ford is shifting all of its small car production from the U.S. to Mexico to cut costs. That begins today's Money Watch. The automaker says it will hire new workers in Mexico to build the compact cars, and its plant in Michigan will start making bigger, more profitable vehicles. Ford and the United Auto Workers Union agree no U.S. jobs will be lost. A new survey shows renters are uneasy about buying homes. The survey by the National Association of Realtors shows home price growth and tight supply are bringing down confidence among potential buyers. It also found misconceptions about down payment amounts could be unnecessarily causing young adults to delay entering the market. Chipotle is getting ready to go on a one-day hiring spree. The company plans to offer jobs to 5,000 people across the country on September 28th. Applicants can register online. Chipotle employs about 60,000 people nationwide. The Mexican-style restaurant is still trying to bounce back after an E. coli outbreak and a lawsuit accusing it of mistreating workers. And the race is on to be the first person to own the new Apple iPhone. Folks around the world are already lining up outside Apple stores today, a day before the iPhone 7 launch. From Australia to Japan, dozens of people camped outside the store's main entrances. Last week, Apple unveiled an iPhone 7 with high-resolution cameras and wireless headphones at its annual launch event. And parents, be careful what you post on social media when it comes to your children. An 18-year-old in Austria is suing her parents who allegedly posted hundreds of photos without her consent. She says that includes embarrassing pictures of her in diapers and potty training. Her father, on the other hand, says he owns the photos and he has a right to post them.
Starting up some fun for the Jessamine County Annual Fall Festival and Tractor Show. I'm Deanne Stevens, out and about in Jessamine County today.
It was a fairly decent day to be out and about, but you might not want to be out too much over the next few days as more heat and rounds of showers and storms are cranking up. I'll track all of it coming up for you.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Jim Caldwell.
Decent looking Thursday out there. A lot of sunshine showing up in many locations. We're lucky because they had some rain across parts of western Kentucky earlier today, but that is even falling apart right now. Here's what we've got across Kentucky with some of our cams highlighted, and you see Frankfort 86, 84 in Moorhead, 88 right now in London with all that sunshine building back in. Throw in a little trace of humidity and it naturally makes it feel a little more uncomfortable out there in many locations. Let's get to our Defender Radar Network where we can track not only the radar, the precipitation data, but you can also see they've got satellite turned on. And you can see a little band of thicker clouds streaming into parts of our area from some of those dying showers that were going up around Owensboro a little bit earlier. But now things are quiet and you can look all the way into eastern Kentucky. It is a calm Thursday as well out there. Here's what we've got. Frontal boundary kind of dropped in on us yesterday. Didn't cause much and it arrived with a little fanfare. And even today, not doing a whole lot in our neck of the woods. Now, what will happen though in the coming days, we'll watch it transform back into a warm front and start lifting on your Friday. That's going to allow that better push of some warmer and perhaps even a little more unstable air to give some of the showers and thunderstorms a fighting chance to survive once we get into your Saturday. Very small chance of rain as we head into the afternoon and evening hours on Friday. So if you're going out to high school football, you're in pretty good shape. Most of your Friday evening plans are going to be fine. Just a very hit and miss chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. Then the energy starts driving in, the cold front. Overnight, early into Saturday morning, that's when we could be running into a better chance of rain. You can see one wave going through. That's the early morning batch. That's not the only one, though. This front slowly progressing into the area and hanging around while we're getting more moisture in the air. It's going to enhance another chance and another wave as we head into the afternoon and evening hours. And it's a slow mover. We're at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and it still has to go all the way through Sunday before it completely clears the area. So it's going to hang around, and it's going to keep those chances of rain alive and well for us. Let's take a look at it. Let's break it all down as we look at the wet weekend setup. Let's go all the way into Sunday, and you can see by early on Saturday morning, around a half an inch or so. And then we get into the latter part of the day, we start growing closer and closer to 2 inches in some locations. Now, where the exact axis of heaviest rain sets up, that's something we'll have to watch and see. But generally 1 to 2 inches, isolated higher amounts, and timing The thing about it is, as I mentioned a minute ago, it's going to come in different waves. Here comes our 7-day forecast. We'll break that down for you so you can see what's happening there. And we've got daytime high around 88 on Friday, down to 80 on Saturday. I think that peaks early, and then temperatures will be rather cool as we head through the evening. Fairly decent for a few days before we throw in a little more heat toward the end of next week. All right, that's weather. Let's see what's going on out there on the roadways. Here's Officer Don.
Big focus right now is on the interstate, I-75 south at the 104-mile marker. There was a diesel fuel spill on the exit ramp, so that means the ramp is closed. Now, police have signs up warning folks at the 104. The ramp is shut down from southbound 75, but both lanes are open, so that's the great news. Back open on the interstate, just the ramp at the 104 remains closed. As far as drive times this afternoon, should be okay to Nicholasville, still dealing with about less than 15 minutes, and to Versailles, about 11. Now back to you in the studio.
Officer Don, thank you. Fall festivals are in the air, fun on the farm, and even tractor pulls. It's a tradition in some towns. Deanne Stevens is out and about. She joins us from Jessamine County to explain. Hi, Deanne.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. We are here at the Jessamine County Fairgrounds where I am. Listen to that. Starting up a 29 Ford truck. I'm going to let that baby, that's too pretty not to let it just run for a little bit. Lee, tell me about this piece of beautiful machinery.
It's a fun ride.
I bet, did you and some other buddies redid this, right?
Yeah, Barry McFadden, standing right over there. He's the one that built the car. It's got a Ford flathead in it, 5-speed, quick change rear end.
And he wouldn't let me do anything other than just start it up. I'll let you know that. I think they are all afraid of me touching too much of this machine, these beautiful machineries around here. Barry is with us. Barry, you helped redo this vehicle. So many.
We actually built this from the ground up.
Well, what a cool car. And it's a truck.
It's a truck with no bed.
With no bed.
Yeah.
You guys ride this around in Jessamine County?
Oh, yeah. Well, we drive it anywhere we want to go. As long as the weather's right.
Exactly. It better be right, right? Tell us about some of the vehicles here and what you guys are doing with the annual Fall Festival.
Well, we're just here trying to promote their tractor show and introduce some cars to the county and, you know, just having fun.
Well, there's a lot of different beautiful cars, and it's so funny because all the gentlemen that I had lined up to tell you what their vehicles are, they've disappeared. You might as well wave now. See? They've disappeared. They're like, there's a camera. Everybody run. What are some of these vehicles we're seeing?
Well, this is a 72 Nova, 48 Anglia, 67 Chevelle, 34 Ford, 30 Model A Roadster, and a 53 Chevy.
So these are a lot of the different cars that will be here for the festival. Things kicking off tomorrow night here in Jessamine County, running all day Saturday. And listen, it's not just about the cars, it's about the tractors too. Robbie is with us from the Tractor Club. A lot of tractors running out here, as are the people running away from us. What is wrong with you all?
They avoiding that camera today.
They act like they're supposed to be at work or something, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe all of them skip lunch or something, come out here.
This is a fun event that you guys have put together, and you've done it for a few years now. Tractors, cars, something for everybody to see.
We try to do a little bit of everything for everybody. The tractors, the cars. We've got some semi trucks will be in tomorrow. I think we got one out there today. We've got some hit and miss engines. We're going to have some arts and crafts vendors and even some Mary Kay vendors come out for the ladies tomorrow. The Antique Association, we took it upon ourselves this year to cook like we used to several years ago. Going to have country ham and just a little bit of everything to eat out here tomorrow. So everybody just needs to come out and have a good time.
I love it. Now, when we come back here at 4:50, I understand you're going to teach me how to drive one of these tractors, young man?
Yeah.
Not that one, though, right?
This is a little car that was made out of a kit. The fellow just made it from the ground up.
Wow, that's pretty. It looks a little complicated. I'm going to jump on a John Deere.
He uses it just to ride around the show with, you know.
Something that folks can see here, part of the Fall Festival and Tractor Show. Kicking off here at Jessamine County Fairgrounds tomorrow night, complete with a band and all kinds of fun. Come be a part of it. I'm Deanne Stevens, out and about. Back to you guys.
If you are napping too much, it could be a sign of diabetes. That's ahead in Better Living. And it might sound like fun to some people, but keeping a chicken as a pet can be risky. That story coming up. Tomorrow's Mega Millions jackpot is $133 million, and Saturday night's Powerball jackpot is $244 million. It is time now for better living, health, education, and consumer news that impacts your life. Active monitoring offers the same chance of survival for prostate cancer as surgery and radiation. That is according to a new study in the New England Journal of Medicine. Researchers found surgery and radiation therapy did reduce the risk of the cancer progressing over time compared to active monitoring, but those treatment options also cause more side effects. Daytime naps of an hour or more could be a warning sign for diabetes. Researchers in Tokyo found long daytime naps are associated with a 45% increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. There was no increased risk for shorter naps. Researchers stress their study does not show naps cause diabetes, but that naps and diabetes could share a common cause. And new research suggests more and more Americans are keeping chickens as household pets. The CDC looked at 2 decades worth of poultry-related human salmonella outbreaks. Researchers found 46% of those salmonella cases involve people who kept poultry inside their homes, and 13% involve people who kissed their birds. Every year, young children die when they're left in a hot car, but new technologies are being developed to warn drivers that a child is in the back seat. And now a bipartisan group of lawmakers is proposing legislation that would require automakers to install those warning systems in their vehicles.
Chase Harrison died in 2008 when his dad forgot to drop him at daycare and went to work, leaving the toddler for hours in his hot car. Now Father Miles Harrison is pleading for help.
I considered myself guilty and full of shame and anger. I cry every day for Chase. If there had been a simple chime to alert me of my son's presence, none of this would have happened.
The families are the most motivating factor.
On Thursday, Congressman Tim Ryan of Ohio and 2 other lawmakers from both parties introduced the Hot Cars Act, which stands for Helping Overcome Trauma for Children Alone in Rear Seats. The act would require automakers to install technology warning drivers when a passenger remains in the back seat.
These are really senseless deaths of young people that are just so tragic. I think we need to step up and fix it now.
29 children have already died this year after being left in a hot vehicle.
On an 80-degree day, the temperature inside a closed car can reach between 130 and 172 degrees, according to the Centers for Disease Control.
General Motors has already developed its own warning system, which it will include on next year's Acadia model. The system is activated when the back door is opened, making the car believe something is in the back seat. Congressman Ryan hopes to pass the Hot Cars Act before the end of the year. Mark Albert, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
We want to head over now to Jim for another check of the weather and those storms holding off for us until at least, what, tomorrow?
At least tomorrow. We have a small chance that we'll try to roll into the area at that point, but the better chances won't get here until we head into your Saturday. Right now it's 87 degrees in Lexington. Now notice a little batch of cloud cover. It's kind of cool. You can see from Fort Knox to Louisville, you see a 3-degree change because of those thicker clouds that are in the area. Same thing impacting the folks into Danville at 82 degrees. So a little thick band of clouds coming in, cooling things off in a few locations out there. While outside of it, you go into Frankfort, 86, 88 Somerset. So those cool little weather features just showing up out there. As far as those rain chances that Amber was talking about, we've got a very small chance tomorrow. But as we head into Saturday and Sunday, that's when we'll be talking about some better chances rolling into the area as a cold front comes rolling into Kentucky and gives us that widespread chance of showers and storms. That's all we've got for you at 4 o'clock, but here's a look at what's coming up at 4:30.